Nice. All right, people, here we go. Episode number 2. That's a pretty cool riff. That's Benny Kravitz, I think. His cousin. Pretty sweet riff. Yeah, man. Check out Benny Kravitz, man. Fucking kick-ass guitarist. I think I'm pretty sure he also played with the Quiet Riot cover band, Silent Noise. And they're pretty kick-ass, too. They play like a lot of bowling alleys and shit, so check that out. You're here. You're here, episode number 2. It is the MisterJosh podcast, TMJP. We're gonna take this in a direction of something that I'm gonna continue to do, but I guess this is a good introductory for it. So this episode is mainly gonna be what I call Confessions of a Strip Club DJ, and basically, I'm gonna go over how I wound up in this business, this situation, and just give you the ins and outs of a lot of what I learned and how what I avoided, and we got some cool photos to incorporate in this as well. So you'll be able to see, for those of you that'll be checking this out on the YouTube channel, which, just so you know, this podcast is also recorded for video. So everything's done live at the Space Coast podcast studios in sunny Florida. And my man Jesse here on the engineers, on the ones and twos, on the knobs and switches, getting all the bitches. And basically, this is also going to lead to what I also want to do, which is called the Stripper Chronicles. And I want to I'm going to be interviewing strippers and dancers and whatever euphemism you want to use for these girls, ladies that work the pole. And we're going to talk about whatever they want to, really. But I'll have some interesting questions. I always have interesting questions. I'm an interesting guy. I'm actually, according to Forbes, the 10 millionth most interesting man in the world. And I wear that pretty proudly. By the way, the Dos Equis guy is Jewish. He is not Latin, just so you know. Google that. Go find that out. Not Spanish, not Hispanic, not Cuban, not Mexican, Jewish. Yeah, he's an actor. It's fake. That being said, so we're going to get into, by the way, let me also say that I'm openly going to be looking for sponsors and sponsorships and somebody or some business entity or someone, an influencer or whoever, that anybody that has an interest in, if they like what they're hearing and they want to do something for this show, you can email me. There's a crawl on the bottom. Check that crawl out. That's pretty cool. That's like fucking CNN style, headline news style. That's pretty cool. But let's just get into it right here. We'll get into all that good stuff. There's so much I have to say and so much I want to accomplish, but we only have an hour at a time to do this, because you can't pay for studio time with food stamps or WIC. I tried. Jesse doesn't take it. He said if it was the old paper money food stamps, maybe, but he doesn't want my fucking EBT card. Okay, so here we go. Confessions of a Strip Club DJ. It pretty much starts out like this, people. I wound up in the strip club business through a gentleman, Anthony Galeota. And Anthony was a client of the attorney that my mother worked for. And he saw my football picture, and he had played football, and he basically said, "Hey, why don't you have your son come down? I think we might get along." My mother thought it was a great idea. How many mothers are like, "Absolutely, go, send your son to the strip club with the mob guy. That's just a brilliant idea." So I went. And we immediately had a connection and a good friendship. We laughed at the same things. I have a New York state of mind. He's a New York, Long Island guy. And we were both 420 friendly, way before it was so cool to be 420 friendly. And when it was kind of like you were a renegade. And, you had to hide under the bleachers with your joint. And so we just hit it off. Everything was funny. I had no money. The girls were very secondary to me. The girls were not as much of an interest. There's nothing wrong with seeing free titties, but they're not really interested in if you're not spending money. So I was just a kind of a fixture of just like, who's the guy that's friends with the owner, so to speak, but he wasn't the owner. So that's my introduction to that club, and that was Porky's in Hialeah. It's it's about 5 minutes from the airport, Miami International Airport. The sister club was a club by the name of Club Pink Pussycat, and both of them are still there, and we'll get to what happens there. So we're friends, and at some point he extends me an opportunity for a job there, and I was kind of like a do-boy. I went and worked on day shift. He worked at night, and there was no real job title. It was just do whatever they ask of you, and that was pretty simple. They didn't ask too much. Nothing was too hard. So what I started to realize was I was more of somebody to be eyes on the day shift, because there was a discount. The two managers, a gentleman by the name of Buddha, and he and Tony, I don't think, got along very well. There was a power struggle there. Now, when I got this job, the owner of the club was a car magnate, a Jewish fellow by the name of Bill Seidle. And if you're from the Miami area, you'd be familiar with Seidle's Gonna Save Ya. I could do jingles, I feel like. Seidle's Gonna Save Ya. Marisol loved that. She thinks I suck. So this guy had a lot of money, and he was the landlord of the club. And what it turned out to be was the original owner, Ludwig Fainberg, Tarzan. Google the name Ludwig Fainberg, and we'll get to him in a second. A little down the road. That was the original owner of Porky's, and Bill Seidle was the landlord at the time, and Tony worked for Tarzan before I was ever in the picture. I view this as a BC and an AD, and with Tarzan and without. And so Operation Odessa went over a lot of this. So there's a Showtime documentary, Operation Odessa, and it discusses a lot of this. Tarzan basically runs Porky's for a set amount of years. I think it was 4 or 5. And then he goes to prison. The FBI, they had it in on him with the submarine and the whole Operation Odessa bust. And Tarzan was then, he did his time, and then he was deported. And I think he went to Israel or Russia, between 1 and 2. But he bounced around. And Tony kind of became the face of the club. The government took over the club for about 2 years. And the government ran it very well, according to Tony. And then they turned it over to Bill Seidle. Once they were done putting together their whole deal, the government was like, okay, we've done what we needed to do. And they turned it over to the landlord. There was really nobody else to turn it over to. So this old man, big car guy down there, he takes over the club silently. Shh, nobody knows. And he actually owns, and he's half owner of Pink Pussycat. So he had 2 clubs with a partner. So that's when I come in. He's already now the figurehead there, but he's completely off premises pretty much all the time. And Tony was that was his boy. That was his guy. So if you're in Tony's good graces, you're fine. And I was in Tony's good graces for sure. So fast forward, I worked temporarily there, and it never seemed like it was going to be a long-lasting thing. And then a few years go by, and I get a call, and I'm living in Brevard County at the time, and I get a call, and basically that call is kind of urgent. It's kind of like, hey, listen, Ralph, the DJ, he quit on us. Me and Jimmy, we can't run it. We can't cover all the shifts. Ralph is just gone. He's MIA. And I'm offering you a chance to take his shifts. We need your help here. I know you don't live here, but, figure out a way. Think about it. So long story short, talked about it with my family, had a baby daughter, and I, needed to look into this opportunity because I knew there was money in it, good pay from my previous time, but this was going to be different. This was going to be real staff. I'm not a do-boy here. Now I'm really, I'm DJing. I'm really, managing, and, this is a position of power, so to speak. And So we figured it out. So what I wound up doing was I drove all the way to Hialeah, Miami every Saturday morning to start a noon shift, work from 12 to 9 p.m., and then hung out on Saturday night and did that all by myself. Just there was not much staff. He kept a very small staff. And then we were closed on Sunday. I did the same thing on Monday. And then on Tuesday, Jimmy, the other day manager, would be in there, and he would stick around and be a second helping hand. Just because it gets progressively busier as the week goes on. So that was fine. I had no problem with that. And I was lucky. I had two friends that actually let me sleep on their floor, their couch, while I stacked money. I couldn't move my family right away. So this was a long-term plan. Like, let's see how this worked out. And I did very well at the job and made a splash, and I took music seriously, and I knew how to deal with these girls and speak with them and talk to them and treat them right. And this is one area I learned to manage very well. And so I was given Wednesday, and then I was given Thursday, and then I was given Friday. And before I knew it, I was working 6 days a week, minimum 54 hours in this club. And it really started to, it consumed me, and it definitely had an effect on life. And me and Tony got closer and closer. And, this was a guy who was insistent upon me hanging out. A, I always had the weed. And B, he liked having a buddy. So, he's feeding me drinks, and I'm drinking all night for free and whatever and this and that. And, you could be having worse times in your life. Trust me. Plenty of people are. Go ask the guy who works at fucking Mailman Joey's. Probably wants to put a gun in his mouth. But that being said, there were times I didn't want to be there, and this guy would literally T-bone my car, not let me leave. I had to put in an hour of party time before I was allowed to leave the premises, and there was no choice because his car was blocking mine in. He would, he worked at night, so he'd come on the shift change, and he would fuck me like that. So that was pretty fun. There's so many stories that take place at Porky's while I was there. Do we have some photos? Are you able to show any of those? We have I don't even know. Maybe I didn't give you any of the Porky's ones or whatever. No, I don't think I did. Okay. You'll be able to go and check those out. I'm going to post all the photos that we don't show in this little slide kind of thingy that we did. But we put a little collage together of some of what you're going to hear. Yeah, I think it's all Panama, pretty much, whatever. So, this was a hood rat club. So the thing about Porky's was, this club was I think everyone would agree that it was a lot more 6s and 7s. These weren't 10s, and these weren't the girls you saw on TV and the typical cliche. These were round the way hood rat girls, and they were low down. And, everything that you think you heard in all the cliches are real. They do exist. Girls do have sex in the VIP room. Yes. Girls are putting things in drinks to get over. Yes. Management in places does overcharge customers. Yes. Everybody's getting over. It's that kind of business. Everybody's getting over. Everyone's getting drunk. There's a lot of other drugs, and everybody's inebriated. And I mean customers and dancers and whatnot, and perhaps some of the staff. And everybody is kind of doing this dance of just money exchanging and how much can you get and take advantage of that sloppy person or whatever. I think this happens in all clubs of all levels, by the way. But I think it's management's job to try to curtail that from being as shitty as possible. So it's that fantasy that everybody hopes it is when they walk into these places. I will say, so here's an interesting anecdote. One thing about Tony was he definitely wanted things his way, and he would send a message any way he had to. So, and I'm going to sanitize this a little bit, but one particular day, and this was toward the end of the whole Porky's era. So here's an interesting story. Get a picture of this. So Tony decides that he has a girly friend that works at the club, and they're pretty cool. And that girly friend gets into it with another dancer who decides to blow smoke in her face from her cigarette. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that. So she goes and tells Tony, and Tony's basically really pissed about it. And so pretty much hatches a plan that we're going to have two dancers. Well, he's going to have two of his night girls are going to get revenge on this girl. He's going to show up one day, and they're going to get theirs. And so he started showing up more and more once he had this girl in his life on my shift. And he would get drunk a lot and hang out, and they would hang out. And one particular day, the two night girls were there, and that's when I knew this was on. This was going to happen. And he needed me to call that dancer, and her dancer name was Desiree. Desiree was one of my better girls on my shift. And he calls Desiree to the back. He has me call Desiree on the microphone to the back, to the dressing room. And I didn't want to do that. I mean, I did not want to do that because I knew what was coming. And Desiree, I think, had an idea because she knew those girls were there. They weren't going out on the floor. But I think she had an idea. But she came to the back anyways, and she said, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, "Tony needs you in the dressing room." And it was literally, she just was fed to the wolves. Now, a lot of people will say to me, well, why did you call her in the back? Well, this, that, and the other. Desiree was getting hers no matter what. And so that's a fact. I didn't contribute to what was going to happen. Her blowing the smoke in that girl's face contributed way more than I did. But I did have to call her to the back. And they wound up really stomping the shit out of her. They beat the shit out of her pretty badly. And Tony jumped in and also... And he really didn't need to do this, but he also really stomped the shit out of her. And it was pretty bad. And she made her way out the back door, pretty much a bloody mess. I mean, like a scene of a fucking horror movie. And she, days later, wound up going to the sister club. And Tony's brother, who worked at that sister club, was like, we got a girl here that says she worked at your place, and she looks really bad, but she needs to work, and she's here, whatever. What do you want me to do? And he's like, let her work, this, that, and the other. Desiree was supposed to testify in court over what happened. She never did. So from what I understand, she was probably scared to do that because everything was dropped as a result. Everything was just now charged to the streets. Nothing ever happened as a result of that. And the police did come, and there was all sorts of shit after, because I think once she made it out in the street, people started calling the cops because they see this fucking basically naked, bloody girl running in the street or whatever, half naked or whatever she had still on her. And so that was one of the wonderful scenarios. Porky's is an interesting club, mainly a Latin club. A lot of violence, a lot of gunplay. With customers. Customers don't like being thrown out. Customers don't like being told they can't come back. A lot of gang banging over there. A lot of dope dealing. So it was a wild time. For the years that I was there, I think somewhere around 6 years. I never put a calendar together of my start date and end date. I never thought there would be an end date. I actually walked away from the club. I had a fallout with Tony and walked away a month later, and I believe God did this, personally speaking, but a month later, the club was it was closed down. Miami-Dade raided the club for the final time, and Miami-Dade decided, we are not giving you your liquor license back, so you guys are done. Seidle's basically had to sell it. Bill Seidle had passed away at that point. I think he had passed away, give or take, a year. I left that out in the chronology, but he passed away about a year before Porky's was closed. His son and a vice president at Nissan, they decided to take over and try to give it a run, and they couldn't. They did a very poor job. These were car guys. These were not strip club guys, so they really didn't know what they were doing. So the Miami-Dade Hialeah police, by the way, had told us many times, they'd give us heads up, like, You guys are red hot, man. You guys got to fucking figure something out. You're red hot. Miami-Dade is going to shut you down. We're doing our best to keep you cool with you guys, but Miami-Dade has it in for you. And part of that was that Bill Seidle, now that he had passed, I don't think that he was covered. That it was all covered like it was back in when he was around. So Porky's was done. And officially, it was officially over. They actually put a stipulations that nobody, with the exception of dancers only, no staff was allowed, and there were specific names put in there, of which mine was one. No staff was allowed to ever work at anybody, the next club that may buy it, the next entity that would buy the club. Should somebody do that, they could not hire anybody from the previous regime. So it really put an end to everything there. When Porky's was open for the final year or so, and if you want, you can pull this up now, Jesse. We're going to talk about Panama here. In the final year of Porky's, Tony had gotten wind of of Panama. A buddy of his had talked about how Costa Rica was getting played out, but Panama is now the new kind of big tourist destination. People are going there, expats are going there, and people are checking it out. They're thinking of moving there, and it's got a crazy nightlife. Everything is it's a big party place. So he decided, Tony's a world traveler. He's been many places, and he decided he wanted to check it out. And he took me along with him, and we went to Panama. And again, a lot of these photos I will make available for you to see on my site. Or Instagram or whatnot. I'll post all this stuff soon enough. And so what happened was the very first time we went to Panama, we smoked, and Tony just felt good, man. He liked Panama. He loved Panama. He loved what he saw. There were so many beautiful things, whether it was the women, the buildings, the weather. Everything was just clicking, man. It was a really, really great environment. We had no idea what to expect. Coming from the jungles of the airport, going all the way to the heart of the city in Panama City. And I used to say that Panama City was like New York, Miami, and Las Vegas all wrapped into one. It had the Miami flair because it was hot and it was Latin. It had the New York flair because it was cobblestone streets all over and boutiques and cafes, and just it wasn't so corporatized. There was no fucking Walmart anywhere. And the Las Vegas part was it was a party town. It was legal prostitution. It was legal gambling. It was bars were open to like 4 or 5 in the morning. The Panamanians drank. The tourists drank. People just liked to party. They danced. They had fun. It was just a late night place. You know, it was like a big city. And it was amazing. And Tony decides on the very first visit, he likes what he saw. And he actually told the realtor, if you can get me weed, because it was very, very hard to get in Panama. And he told this guy, what the fuck was his name? And he said, and we were sitting in there, and he said, if you can get me weed, I'll buy that condo from you right now. And he made a call. And he had nothing to do with weed. He didn't want. He thought it was a joke, and he made the call. He made it happen because we were getting some bad. It was very sweat. It was garbage. What we were getting was garbage, and he made it happen. And Tony wound up buying 7 properties at that point, all pre-construction, high rises and fancy buildings and all that in Panama. So that photo that you're seeing there, let's go through some of these real quick. Yeah. So that is at Dollhouse. So. Let me get to this before you skip to the next one, Jesse, but you can leave this up for a second. So while we're in Panama, Tony not only gets those properties, but while I'm still working Porky's, he decides to, and actually, you know what you can do? Jump out of this and show the bongos. Yeah, and then we'll do, yeah. I think it was the bongos one. I think there was a file. Or did we skip? No, not that one. Maybe before La Jolla? No? I thought we saved the 2. Maybe didn't. Anyways, not a big deal. So what happened was Tony bought a wing joint in a really cool spot. He wound up getting a bar and a wing joint, and he also bought a coffee shop, and we had those, and those were going very well. And I was covering a lot of Tony's work in Miami because he was doing a lot of work stuff in Panama and covering those businesses, and he was there a lot. And so, if you can believe it, at some point, one day, Tarzan, a man I've never met, Ludwig Fainberg, he shows up in Panama. There's a lot of Russians there. There's a lot of Chinese there. There's a lot of Colombians there. There's a lot of Americans. There's a lot of Canadians. It's a melting pot. Panama City is where the canal is. So all of that trade and all of that money that's involved in trade conglomerates there. It's a lot of money flowing through. A lot of drugs, a lot of everything is going through that canal. And so Tarzan shows up, and Tarzan says, "Hey, we got Russians here. We've got some friends here." And I would think, he wanted to open up a club. Let's open up strip club here, Miami style. Why not? Let's have club here. It's you and me. We know what we're doing. And he was very excited. And Tony hadn't seen this guy in many, many years. And I don't even think they talked that much. Kind of kept quiet for as close of friends they were. And so Tarzan winds up seducing Tony into the strip club business. And so they decide they're going to open Dollhouse. And the way Dollhouse got open was there was some Russian gentlemen that were already, that had a club there, Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge was very successful. These guys were doing great. And Moulin Rouge was on the best block in all of Panama, Via Veneto. And Veneto, so there's the Bongos. So you see the Bongos logo there. That was it. And there's the Bongos location. I had a feeling we did add those. So you're good. So that was the logo. That was Bongos. And that was the corner it was on over there in the top right. And that's me and Tony and my hand's in the way there. And that's me, Tony, and oh, Jesus, what the hell was her name? Patty. That was our office manager at Dollhouse. And then all those gentlemen there were Americans. And one of those gentlemen was the guy who told Tony, that's Tony in the black shirt with the blue, with the hat. And those gentlemen, two of those were Panamanian real estate agent guys, great guys. We'll just say V and Mark. And then the other gentleman is, he's the one that told Tony about Panama. He's the one that pretty much is why we wound up there. So that's pretty cool. You can cycle through the next ones. So right there is the famous photo. That's the one that's attributed to everything right there. That is Ludwig Fainberg, Tarzan, and Tony. Tony liked to wear the mink coat when he would host he would basically host our nights. He was a party guy. He was a wedding DJ, and he worked at in Fort Lauderdale, spring break, at the heart of all that. So he was really good at keeping the party going. I mean, that was his strong suit. So those were the two owners of Dollhouse right there. That is the famous photo. That is my photo. That is credit to me as well, right here. Everybody can see this right here. Yeah, this is the Miami New Times that tells all about the story that I got. You can get this online. I'll put a link. I will put a link. This is the Miami New Times article right here. Here, take a look at that. Right there. Okay. So, all right, thank you. And let's jump back, see what else we got. So, Panama was just amazing, and it was not a long time. So, those Russians decided we can get another club, and they did it. And they did it the way Russian mobsters do it. They took it. And so they forced a guy out, and we wound up getting that club, and that club was to become Dollhouse. And that is the Dollhouse logo awning at night, and that was the construction on the left over there with the bright neon, girls' rooms. Pretty self-explanatory what's going on there. And then the other one is of the actual construction of it being put up. It was enormous. I remember it was just absolutely enormous. It was actually probably too big. It was so gaudy where it was. You weren't going to miss that. I mean, that's for sure. What else do we got? Okay, this is the grand opening night. So that's Tony on stage, and this was the grand opening night where a lot of these photos took place. Yeah, just all the on-stage action. I was probably letting a song go and filming this out on the floor. So yeah, there's the stage. And so what happened was Dollhouse was open basically for 3 months. They put it together fast. Things went fast. It went very well. And Dollhouse was going to do very well. We were getting a good business going for sure. And excuse me 1 second here. Okay. And so the thing about Dollhouse, which was pretty interesting, was we had Panamanian girls and we had Colombian girls. The Colombian girls all came over from Colombia to work. They had a choice of being a $500 visitor, which was a visitor's visa, or $1,500 got them a worker's visa, in which they would more than likely a lot of times they would be prostitutes, and it was legal. So they had a card and they had to be regulated, and if you were going to do that, you had to work in an establishment. You couldn't just freelance or do what you wanted. A lot of the girls in Panama did do that and freelanced or whatnot, but that wasn't the case for a good portion of the girls. The girls that we had working for us, we tried to provide as much business as we could, but because we were new, that was also part of a struggle as well, as we were getting everything going. It's a new business. I could tell you that there was a line of girls that were looking to do this, that they would constantly show us on their Facebooks and showing us whether it was cousins or friends or whatnot. We actually couldn't keep enough. We couldn't even keep them busy enough. There were so many girls that wanted to come over and experience this life, and the other ones vouched for us because we treated them very well. And they were like daughters to us. I don't know really how else to explain it, but we ran Dollhouse, and these girls, everything was very well taken care of, and everything was top notch. And then, like I said, Dollhouse was open for 3 months, and Tony told me, we were at the time, one of the condos was built. So on the 7 that he bought, it had taken a long time, but one of them was built and he was living in it. And so I was living in it. He had the top loft. It was a loft style, like New York style. And I stayed in a pull-out couch out of a suitcase. We weren't home much, so it didn't fucking matter much. And it was just a party life. And I was going to move my family there, and my family I think was a little on the rocks anyways, and my marriage was on the rocks, and but we were thinking of moving there permanently, and this was all these businesses. So now we had bongos, and we had the coffee shop, and now we have Dollhouse, and it's like we're taking over. I mean, it's like, and we're in the heart. It's like being in Manhattan and doing this, you know what I mean? You're like fucking Peter Gatien and or Donald Trump or whoever that's got a whole lot of buildings and shit going on in your city and a lot of businesses, and they're just made a Mark Cuban, whoever you want to call yourself. And so it was just it was going so well. And Tony then tells me, listen, dude, I kind of got bad news. You got to go home for 2 weeks. Christy and the kids are coming to visit. I said, Christy and the kids? You kidding me? I didn't know they would come. She didn't like to fly and this and that. So, but this was a big deal. They were going to transition families and all that. So he said, yeah. And I was upset. I was upset. And so I decided, well, go home for 2 weeks and then you'll come back. There wasn't much you can do. And so I went home, and I had already had my ticket bought for 14 days. And, all right, cool. And I had my ticket for 14 days, and I was waiting it out. And on the 8th day, I was on the phone with Tony. And on that 8th day of the 14 days, as I was waiting to go back, he tells me, hey, hold on a second. The police are here, and I'm going to call you right back. This is, and he just hung up. Boom. And I didn't know what to make of it. The police we were always on the take. And we're going to stop right there and cliffhang on that note. What happened after the police came into Dollhouse? I had no idea.
Are you new to a leadership position? Are you finding it hard to deal with certain personalities in the workplace? Maybe you're trying to reshape your organizational culture to increase your retention, your readiness, as well as your performance of your individuals on your team. Hi, I'm Stephon Williams with Hialeah Leadership and Development Training. I welcome you to contact me to kind of explore some things that we can do to help you with your people needs. We're in the business of human capital performance on the professional side as well as the personal side. If you're looking for a motivational speaker to open up your convention, contact StephonWilliams.com. If you're looking for someone that's going to help you redefine your own personal leadership style, contact StephonWilliams.com. If you're just looking to take your team to the next level, contact StephonWilliams.com, and that is STEPHON Williams.com. Hialeah Leadership Development Training. We look forward to seeing, hearing, and working with you.
Steven,
Why, yes, Christopher.
what are you doing?
I am scribing down some ideas for the next podcast of the Black Dog Confessional.
Oh, Mitzi had spoke of that. She said it is rather wonderful.
Well, you know, we try to succeed, Christopher. We try to succeed. We're talking about all the proper etiquette techniques that we can this week.
Do you think everyone is listening?
I definitely believe so, Christopher.
Well, if they're not, they better get on the game! You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
We're back. We're back. We're back. Cool. All right, so we left off at the phone call. Now, the police were, they're funny in Panama. They always had their hand out. So we used to give them shrimp and beer at bongos all the time. And when you're nice and you give people free shrimp and beer, you know what happens, Jesse? That's part of it. Can they hear you? I don't know. I don't hear you through my headphones. Oh, they don't hear you like that. No, Jesse, they want more shrimp and beer all the time. So then shrimp and beer becomes an expectation. And then, can you imagine that? And then what they'll do is they would roll up to bongos and wait for somebody to come out and bring it to their car. Like it was like it was a fucking sock hop in the 50s. Yeah, like on roller skates, I would have to come out. And I always drop the beers and shrimp. I'm not a good skater. Right. You know what I mean? And I'm so nervous. I'm wearing like the skirt and everything. And it's my first time out there. No, but they actually had an expectation. It's fucking nuts. When he tells me that, when he says to me that the police are here, I thought it was more of like that kind of situation. I didn't think that this was like bad. So one day turns to two turns to three. I'm reaching out through the phone, and there's no one's answering. And it's going to a Magic Jack. If anyone remembers, you plug that into your computer, and you were able to talk free or whatever. VoIP. This is like when VoIP first fucking started. So we were able to talk internationally. You know what I mean? There was communication. I wind up reaching out to some of the girls on Facebook that worked with us, and that's when I got the bad news. And that's when I was told that it's bad. Everyone was arrested between the both clubs. It's on the news. It's in the papers. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. So I wound up looking all this up. I verify it. It is bad. And I get a call from Tony maybe 3 days later. And something like that. And he's scared. And he tells me he's in a prison called Ancon. And I don't think he knew he was necessarily going to be moved or whatnot or what have you. But he lets me know everybody was taken in, and it's the file. It's all being filed under drug charges and whatnot. So what really happened in this scenario? And by the way, I should have been there. We're leaving out here. and I think I spoke about this in my first podcast, and why I'm blessed by God, I have to be, is because I should have been there. I expected to be there. If I'm there, I get arrested and put in jail with all these people. I do not feel that I would have had the same situation as Tony. He had a lot more money. He had Tarzan on his side. There were a lot of the Russian connection was very strong because him and Tarzan were very, very close. Tarzan was in with the other Russians that own the other clubs, so that's where the real money was. And there's more I'll go over about these things in detail. We're trying to squeeze a lot of this into an hour, but there's a lot of explicit details about a lot of things that have happened. Even go back to Miami and Porky's and so many stories. And there'll be more episodes, obviously, of Confessions of a Strip Club DJ. And we'll talk, more in depth about certain anecdotes and certain things that happen. But so I don't think I get out. I mean, I can tell you now, I feel like I die in there. I feel like I wouldn't have the same support. I wouldn't have the same monetary support. I don't know if I don't have family that would have. I just feel like I would have been lost in there, and that would have been beyond shitty. Tony winds up in La Jolla, and Jesse, if you can bring these up now. So these are photos that he shared with me from the prison. So this is La Jolla, which stands for the Jewel in Panama. Now that picture right there that you're seeing is above the prison, meaning it was so overcrowded. And by the way, they split the prisoners up. Panamanians in one pavilion and all other nationalities in another. Obviously, mostly Panamanians in that country is who's getting arrested. So that was a lion's share. But they split it. So all that you're seeing there is actually all foreigners, anyone that was a non-Panamanian in there. So there's still a lot of Latins, whether it was Colombians, Brazilians, Venezuelans, whatnot. So that is actually on top of the ceiling of the building. That is literally like another floor created just for people to house inmates. And all those buckets and stuff that you're seeing there is for water. Water was a scarcity like liquid gold, literally. So that's that photo there. What else we got? That, and some of these are in the New Times article, that paper that we showed you before, the New Times. That gentleman, that's a pistol. That's in prison. And he don't give a fuck. Kind of looks like Fabo. Fabo! I don't know if you know D. Pharrell, Laffy Taffy. He had them same glasses. Kind of a weird dude. So shout out to Fabo, by the way. That's another pistol, and that's weed. That's those are sackety sacks, as we used to call them, hacky sacks. And that is Tarzan. That is Ludwig Fainberg, sleeping, obviously. And that is that's prison life, man. That's he never really looked like that. If you go Google a lot of this guy's photos, he does not look like that, but it fucking sucks in there. Now that is literally the toilet. And Tony would tell me, I spoke to Tony pretty much every day. They were able to, the Panamanian jail is very easy about smuggling things in. As you can see, there's 2 fucking guns in these pictures. That's a lot of weed right there in the open in a prison. If you paid the guards, anything could get in. And then they would confiscate all your shit, and then they would get repaid again so they can bring it in. So everyone had a phone. It's not in American jails. It's not very open to have a phone. These guys ain't on phones. If they're on a phone, they're hiding that shit. Trust me. They could get another 2 years for that. Trust me. And yeah, so or whatever, 3-4 years, whatever they get, they're getting more time for having that cell phone. Trust, But in Panama, that was very, very common. And so that was La Jolla. I think that was all of them, whatever. So that gives you an idea of how shitty that scenario was. And through the grace of God, I avoided that. That's how I'm here talking to you now. That's how I'm in the Space Coast podcast studio talking about this incident instead of sitting in that prison and having to take a shit in that hole, which that would have been hard for me to do. You have to do it, but that's tough, man. You got to have your squat down. You got to have a squatty potty. By the way, if Squatty Potty wants to sponsor, I think Howard Stern used to do Squatty Potty By the way, in case you didn't know, the way you're shitting, the way you sit down to shit, apparently is wrong. Like, you can't trust anything you've been taught your whole life, by the way, because the whole way you've been sitting to shit apparently is wrong. Did you know that? Yeah. Okay. You're supposed to squat like a caveman and really open your sphincter up. I think that's what the whole point of that. I mean, like, what else? I think it's also for your insides. Like, it's that squeeze or something. But you've been shitting the wrong way, people. And by the way, anybody who also wipes from the back to the front, you're doing that wrong too. Just in case. Somebody's doing that. Out of 100 people, 5 of them are doing that. Oh, no. At least.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's a problem. And it's worse for women, by the way. Any woman that's doing that, it's way worse for them. Guy's just going to stink. A woman is actually going to create an actual problem for herself, physically. So, ladies, and I can show you if you want, but there's a certain way to do this, and I think you know that. The other thing that's kind of funny, speaking of that, my daughter dated a boy who I couldn't believe he told us this, Jesse. He actually said that his father used to take his shit not sitting back to toilet like every other person, but inverted front to tank, like, chest to tank.
Like facing the wall.
Facing the wall.
That's so weird.
Isn't it? And I asked him why he told us that. Why did he throw his dad under the bus like that? And he said because he was ashamed because he thought that was the right way to shit, and now that's what he does. And we had an intervention. And for about 2 weeks, we would go in the bathroom with him, and they'd be like, stand up, turn around, sit. Okay, sit
hilarious.
like a dog. And we taught him how to shit the right way. And even that wasn't the right way because we didn't have a squatty potty.
Right.
So
you did your best.
We did our best. Really, to put a bow on the Panama thing again, and the confessions of a strip club DJ, and we're gonna get some. Next time we'll have some music, like that, like some Blue Oyster. Do you remember the Blue Oyster, by the way? Yes. Do you know that?
Please Academy.
Yes. Anybody? By the way, if anybody wants to go hang out at the Blue Oyster, I'm fucking totally down. Just fly me in wherever it is because there's no Blue Oyster there's no Blue Oyster in Brevard County. But there was a Spody Doties in Manhattan. But by the way, best club name ever, Spody Doties. Anyways, that being said, let's wrap this up here, folks. You've been so diligent in listening. This is episode 2 of the Mr. Josh podcast. We're trying to grow fast. We're trying to put as much time in this as we can. I'm just a fucking 44-year-old Jew asshole, big mouth. I haven't even begun to let you know what I really think. I haven't really begun to get casual. I haven't really begun to let my hair down, if you know what I mean. I haven't really begun to kick my shoes off. You know what I'm saying? And every other euphemism out there. But we're going to get to that. And frankly, I'm going to do some stuff where we're going to go over. I'm a big fan of Tim Pool, by the way. Shout out to Tim Pool. And a lot of people do this, so it's probably like Tim Pool is not the only one doing this, asshole. There's about 1,000 people doing this. But I like going over news stories and giving my take on a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to get that going once this podcast is really moving along. I'd like to do some other things that maybe you'll see just on YouTube only stuff and maybe not totally that you'll hear on the podcast. We save the good stuff for the podcast, and we'll talk all the news shit on YouTube, on that shit platform YouTube. You know what's going on there, folks. It's the Vox Adpocalypse. It's all happening. Taking down the little guy, taking down a little creator. YouTube is now like the Amazon, and they're crushing Zappos.com until they can buy them and step all over them until they own them. And, go research Jeff Bezos and how he acquired Zappos.com. It'll make you throw up. But, yeah, we're going to get to a lot of good stuff. I have a lot of interesting things. Jesse, how much time do we have left, by the way, here? 10? Okay. So one variation, again, I want to go over is with this show, I am going to be talking, and we're actually going to, we'll do this in multiple cities if this can really take off because there's so many different perspectives and so many different clubs. But I got news for you. There's so many clubs in Florida that this is a nice starting point between South Florida all the way up to Orlando. I mean, there's a ton of clubs. In Tampa, forget it. So, but I'm going to be doing the Stripper Chronicles. I'm going to be interviewing these girls that work in these clubs because I'm going to be able to talk to them from a different perspective. I was the inside guy. I was the one that put them on stage. I was the one that dealt with their shit. I was the one that fought with their pimp. I was the one that they had to, break off so they could go and leave the club so they could go bang that customer for $300. Whatever it was, that's what I had to do. That's what I did. With with the final 10 minutes, really funny little anecdote as well. Shout out to Marisol, by the way. I have a 21-year-old daughter. I know I look like I'm 21, but I'm not. I'm 44. That being said, I have a daughter. I don't remember exactly how old she was, but here's a funny story. I did my best to keep it from her that I worked at a strip club. That wasn't something I was totally proud of, and I certainly didn't want to tell my little girl that, Daddy works at the strip club. Hey, everybody, come on to the stage. Get ready for Diamond. Gonna take the stage around. Get your dollars, make her holler. She'll take her panties off if you do what's right, gentlemen. That wouldn't have impressed my daughter at all. Being able to talk like Dora or talk like, Adam Sandler talked, that she liked stuff like that a lot more. By the way, I can do a lot of voices if you need voiceover work. I got a whole array of voices I could do, all that good stuff. That being said, so my daughter, she comes to me one day and I slipped, and I'm going to explain to you the punchline to the whole thing. How did I slip? How did she find out? How did she find out you work in a strip club, Mr. Josh? How did she? Well, I fucked up. And she comes to me one day, Jesse, you're going to like this, and she says, Daddy, I know what you do. I know what you do. And I said, well, Marisol, what do I do? What do you mean? What do I do? She says, I know what you do. I know what you do for work. I said, well, what do I do, Marisol? I don't understand. I said, I play music. It's a dance club. You're right. I'm a DJ at a dance club. She says, that's not what it is. She says, Daddy, it's what you do to a bed. I know what they do. It's what you do to a bed. And for the life of me, I'm thinking, like, what are we playing? Fucking riddle me this, riddle me that. What are you talking about? And she's like, she's young. She's like 7 years old, and she's playing metaphor games, guessing games, head games, like fucking foreigner. And I'm not getting it. And I thought I was pretty smart, but I was probably high. And she said, Daddy, I know what they do. And she says, what they do to bed. I says, Marisol, you got to tell me. I don't know. She says, they strip. And I couldn't believe it. I was busted. They strip. And then I'm wondering, why does she know what stripping is? And then I forgot that her mother likes to strip to put her to bed. It was a way to get her to fall asleep. Her mother would strip for her. I'm just kidding. When she would cry a lot, her mother would strip to get her to fall back asleep. No, she somehow she knew. And I then had to have the sit-down talk about, yes, that's what I do. But this wonderful house and all those toys and all those things you have, these girls paid for. They're our friends. Let's not hate them. Let's not disparage them. These girls, okay, well, that's that. These girls, they're working hard and they don't want to be doing this. And I did my best to sugarcoat it. Anyways, so I just, I let her know, man, that's the naked hustle. And some girls got to work the pole. And I forbid you to. And I would hope that you don't feel you ever want to do that or need to do that. So I had to disparage it in a way that I would never want, so I would want her to never think of doing it, but on the same token, respect the fact that this is how we get our money. I pay my rent off of these girls' backs. And because they're on their backs. They're not all on their backs. Let me make that very clear. Not every girl is doing that. But it was an interesting talk. And she found the flyer. That's how she knew. The flyer that we had flyers that we put on the tables, it fell out of my CD book, Jesse. And she found it in the car. So she saw the lady on the flyer. She could read, some of the copy. And it probably, it was a strip club flyer. You don't got to be a fucking rocket scientist to know this wasn't a coloring book. Although she did color it in, and she did an amazing job, by the way. I framed it, actually. It's in my office in Canada. And So yeah, that's another one of the Confessions of a Strip Club DJ stories. I have so many more. The reason why I put this podcast together on the fly is because my friend Tony, my best friend, and all this, and we're gonna get into this probably the next time. So we'll cliffhang it with this. I feel that he's cutting me out of the deal. The movie, the series, the Locked Up Abroad, Tarzan was in Operation Odessa. There's so much going on. This is going to be big, this story, folks. It's going to be a big movie or show, what I'm telling you. And I feel like there's a chance that your boy here is getting cut out. My best friend, my mentor, my father, my brother. If you ever get to hear this, you fucked me. And I'm not going to go down like a sunken ship because, yes, this was your story. But I held your hand the whole fucking way. I was your amateur psychologist. I was your brother when your brother doesn't talk to you. I was your family when your family doesn't talk to you. When they fucking hate on you. When your father doesn't talk to you. Nobody from Porky's talks to you. I was all you fucking had. I was your brother. You cut me out. You're trying to rob me of this opportunity, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I've been robbed of everything my whole fucking life, dude. Trust me when I tell you. But the bottom line is, I'm going to eat off of this the same way you are going to eat off of this. And you may eat a whole bunch more than me, but I will not let this opportunity pass by. I don't know how much more time I have, but folks, you're listening to the Mr. Josh podcast. This is episode number 2, Confessions of a Strip Club DJ. We got so much more to go over, folks. Keep listening. Episode 3 will be coming up. We're at the Space Coast Podcast Studios in sunny Florida. And I got to tell you, thanks for listening. Support the show. Find me on the socials. Instagram and Twitter is Mr. spelled out MisterJoshW. Josh W. You see it on the crawl there. If you want to email me, you can email to the Gmail there. You see it on the crawl. Well, for those seeing it on the crawl. But the email is the MisterJoshPodcast@gmail.com. You can hear me on, we're on Buzzsprout, and that's www.themisterjoshpodcast.com. And obviously, you can also get it on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and we'll be all over the internet. So you can get it on all these platforms. And then there's the YouTube channel, stuff that may not make it on the podcast, gonzo stuff, things I'm going to do, man on the street. I want to do interviews. I want to go up to people. I want to say hi to people. I want to shake hands. I want to let them know who I am. I want to learn who they are. It's just going to be whatever I want to do. This will just be the platform to do it. Support your content creators, YouTube, all these platforms. They don't want it. They don't want the little people to rise up and become the lion's share of what people watch. It's already happening. The paradigm has shifted. It's so crazy. But it's going to continue to go this way. Support me, support your podcasters in general, support your YouTube creators in general. And yeah, much love. I mean, again, thank you for listening. Once again, the Mr. Josh podcast. Episode number 2. Thank you.